being here. Pretty early in the morning, but pretty good show out. So I think we'll get started. So we have Brooke Beach, Ashley, Callahan, and Robbie York. And they're all graduates of Grady College. Let me, I guess, begin with a short introduction of everyone, and I guess I can start. Name is Grace An, Associate Professor. This is my 9th year at Grady College. I am directing the Games and Virtual Environments Lab. The research that I do looks at how our virtual experiences change the way that we think and behave in the physical world. And so lots of VR, AR, it's a pretty exciting time to be in this field.
I'm Ashley Callahan. I lead the team that is in charge of the advertising at Chick-fil-A.
Beautiful Brooke Beach, Grady grad. It feels like home, I was just saying. It's so nice to be back. It's changed a lot and I feel older. But I am the CEO and founder of a digital marketing agency in Atlanta called Marketwake, and before that I was CEO of an email marketing platform called Kevy.
I'm Robbie York, and I own the bar and restaurant American Whiskey, which is kind of a center for New York City-based alumni for game watches.
Way more cool.
Yeah.
So much more fun.
We're kind of hoping there'd be whiskey, but.
I mean, I don't know what we're doing later, but.
It's game weekend, right?
So I thought that the theme of this panel was really interesting because working with virtual reality, we always focus on the fact that the time dimension is really flexible. And so an idea for one of my more recent studies was, what if we could create a message to our past younger selves about the things that we regret, things that we wish we could have done differently, or the things that we want to pat ourselves on the back for, that we didn't know it at the time, but the decision was great. And so it's a really interesting panel to be able to think of messages that I wanted my 20-something-year-old self to hear as we are getting close to the 40s, the big 4-0. And so we wanted to kick off with perhaps a message that relates to our current students. What did you think that was the highlight of your Grady experience that really kind of connected well to what you're doing right now in your current positions? So if you could pick maybe a couple highlights, like this was great, this class was great, this student organization was great, so whatever the experience was.
I had a ton. So here we go. No, really, I had a ton. I would say, and one of the things that I did and I'm really glad about, this is not a regret, I got very involved in Grady. So got to know my professors and teachers, and I still love seeing them even today. A few things that stood out. One is there was an event kind of like this, actually. And I just decided, you know what, I'm going to attend as many as I can, because you never know who you're going to meet or what's going to happen. And it happened to be someone who was a part of a very new Ryan Seacrest Foundation. And so they were just getting it started. They weren't quite sure what they were doing. But Ryan Seacrest went to Grady for a little while before become super famous. And what he wanted to do was actually give back to hospitals, because he would do different hospital tours and realized it's hard to go into a children's hospital. So how do we bring fun and life and excitement into it? And so he built a studio, and you guys have probably heard about it. I think that he's still involved with Grady in some way. So I got to be a part of the very, very first founding member of it. So I raised my hand, I was like, I'm in, I don't know what's going on. They hadn't even built the studio yet. I think I was sitting like right here. And he goes, okay, calm down. And I was like, oh, whatever it is, I want to be a part of it. And so I got to go and join, and I got to meet incredible people, incredible celebrities, incredible kids. And it forced me to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. I started having to drive back and forth from Athens to Atlanta, and so I was missing a lot of things here. But what it did was actually position me so well to learn how to communicate. I would have to be live on radio, sometimes on TV. I would have to work with kids and span from kids to celebrities to business. And it was just an unbelievable experience. And I would never have gotten that experience if I hadn't attended an event somewhat like this. And then I also was a Grady ambassador. So tried to figure out how to get involved. And I remember sitting, I can't remember actually what event it was, but it was an event and it was a cool one. And there were these unbelievable people who were walking on stage. And I just realized, I think you think life kind of your business life happens after college, and sitting there and watching all these people talk about their careers and all the things that they have done, I realized, you know what, no, it actually starts here, and I can facilitate relationships here that are really going to set me up for later.
Yeah, that's a great point, to be able to focus on what you're going to do after college while you're here.
Yeah.
So that you don't start worrying after you graduate and then you're like, what now?
What did I do?
Right. So Ashley, do you want to?
Yeah, I think one of Grady's great strengths is the real world experience that it brings to you. So I was a part of the broadcast news major. I think that still exists. I don't know, they're pretty diversified now. And so my primary experience with Grady was working on News Source 15, which is the student newscast. And there wasn't a whole lot of time for anything outside of that. But I learned a lot. I learned how to work as a team and to work with people you didn't always see eye to eye on. Really learned a lot about the different positions in the newsroom and what it took to put on a newscast. And it was great, and I still have really close friends that we were in that class together, and really helped me move into the professional world to be able to have the experience to get into the news industry. I still use those skills now, very much so, with meeting deadlines and understanding stories and communication, and it was just an amazing experience and really great with the professors. So.
Yeah. How did you shift from broadcasting to marketing in Chick-fil-A?
Yeah. I think the other thing I would say is the great thing once you graduate is it's not a pass-fail anymore. And you can go into an industry and a field and you can learn so much, and you don't have to be there forever, and that's okay. David Hazinski is sitting here, and I remember I was so nervous to tell him that I thought I was getting out of news because I thought he would be disappointed. And he was a huge proponent of my career, helped counsel me through contracts and things like that. And so he was great, but the impetus for that was I was working at WSB TV in Atlanta. It was my third shop, and it had started to feel formulaic for me. I felt like I was doing the same thing, and the thing that was changing were just the shops. And as I was looking at that and the level of commitment you have to that field and to the schedule, it wasn't feeling like a good fit for me anymore. And so a woman who I had been introduced to here at Grady because she had been an anchor in Boston, and I connected with her when she was mentoring us in News Source 15. We worked together at WSB, had moved into communications at St. Joseph's Healthcare, offered me a freelance job. And so I would go work the morning shift at WSB, and when I got done with that shift, I would go freelance at the hospital until the end of the day. And as I saw, I had an event happen in my life. My father got cancer, and the reactions to how that was going to impact the organizations that I worked for, it became very clear that I was going to step in and work at the hospital. They were very kind and accommodating to what I needed at that time. So it was partially a professional interest, and it was partially a personal recognition for what I needed at that time in my life.
Yeah, it was really interesting while reading your, I guess, path to where you are right now.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big gap between what you used to do and what you're doing now, yeah?
Yes, I think having a mindset of just always being open to different opportunities. Right about the time I transitioned, and this is going to make me sound old now as I'm talking to my younger self, social media was picking up. And it was just about the time that TV stations were starting to have their own handles for Twitter and all of those things. And what it did was it opened up brands to say, we don't necessarily have to rely on the media to tell our stories. The technology was breaking down and becoming more accessible. And so very serendipitously, I had a skill with multimedia and storytelling that was becoming very desirable. So stepping into communications, it was really to start in a video storytelling and then evolved into really web and digital expertise.
Yeah. All right, and Robbie.
Yeah, that's
so,
me.
Someone was telling me about, because I thought you were just a managerial position at American Whiskey, and someone was saying, no, he owns
I'm
it.
the chief dishwasher a lot of days. It just depends on what days there are.
He owns the biggest bar in New York, and I'm like, how did you figure that out?
I mean, it's one of these things where, and going back to your original question about what was great about Grady, is I probably didn't take full advantage of Grady. I probably didn't. I was in a hurry to get to New York City. That was my goal. I knew that from the moment.
Why was that?
Well, I was going to be an actor.
Okay.
And so the next question is, well, did you do anything? All right. Well, I did. I worked for about 5 solid years, off and on, tough business, very, very tough business. As anybody that is, taking a a media degree from here and maybe thinking about being media law after this, all this kind of stuff. It's a very tough business. And what you have to know is you have to be ready to survive in New York City. Especially, I had no friends, no family. I moved up here with a guy, Chip Barber, who was at the news station here, and I had met Chip on a whim in a theater class taught by Farley Richmond. I was at Farley Richmond, and so I had to take a couple classes with Farley. I loved Farley Richmond. He was great. And so I met Chip, and Chip said, well, I'm going to come to New York. And I said, well, I'm going to come to New York too, so why don't we get an apartment together? And so you talk about relationship building, and then taking what you learn here and being able to communicate with people, which is what I pride myself on, is knowing people and being able to listen to them. Most important thing is being able to listen to people, because then you can take their message and fine tune it for what Grady wants. But I never really took advantage of that. The best professor in the best class that I had was I had Robert Willett for graphics. I used to call him Working Man Bob Willett, because he was just, I could talk to Bob Willett and say, and I really loved graphics. I did a graphics internship with a small ad agency with a guy that I knew. And so I got a lot of hands-on experience there. But then I went to Professor Willett, and I could go back to him and be like, does this make sense? And he had so much real-world experience that I felt like, because all I wanted to do was go work. All I wanted to do was get to New York City and prove that I was going to be a success, right? And I was a strong personality. I'm a little less strong than I used to be, but I wasn't everybody at Grady's favorite, I'll tell you that. I'm not going to make this some kind of fairy tale, because it's not. So I kind of learned a little bit to temper my personality, and it taught me how to work more as a team. Especially in the PR classes, that's PR journalism here. So I could always go back to Professor Willett and say, like, okay, does this make sense? How is this actually going to work for me? And he always made common sense to me. And common sense and listening will take you far in life. That's really something that a lot of people miss out on. And with American whiskey, it's a long journey from being an actor. You can call it being a failed actor. I did a few TV shows, and I was also about 50 pounds heavier. So that when you become an actor in New York City and you're fat, what happens is you see the same 30 people at the audition. So you see the same 30 fat white guys, and you say, "Oh, did you get that job? Or did you get that job? Who got that job?" And everybody always knew who got the job. So I had done that for a while.
So when was the moment when you're like, all right, I'm going to stop being this actor thing and move on?
Well, I'll tell you, it's, and the only, Dane was talking to me earlier about, how honest my answers are, and all I can be is honest with you. And so, they say that meme that's out of the path of success is not this, it's like this, and it's through a valley, and it's on top of a mountain, and it goes back to a valley. And I had come to New York. I had gotten, I'd been auditioning. I worked 8 days a week. I never stopped. I was so scared of having to go back to Griffin, Georgia with no money and being a failure. And that is what drove me. And so I worked every shift I could pick up. I was working at this bar in the East Village called Village Poorhouse. I was auditioning during the day, figuring it out. I had terrible headshots. I had to figure out who made good headshots, all this kind of stuff. You got to get in the thick of it. And you got to remember, whatever community you go into, there's a lot of people who are trying to do the same thing you're trying to do, right? So they're all starving. And I never will forget, there's a couple of nice young women who are now editors at Vogue and editors at different magazines. I forget now. One of them's brother started Airbnb, so you never know who you're going to meet in New York. But she cocktail waitress with us from Thursday to Sunday to make extra money to pay her rent. And she hustled, and she was in that journalism. She was in there, and she was getting paid nothing to go in there and work with the people who were going to change her life. So if you want it bad enough, you can go get it. But it's not in New York City. Probably in Los Angeles too. I haven't spent too much time in LA lately, but in New York, you're gonna have to go get it. And then they don't care about you. Go make your way. Go take if it's kind of like, you can't be scared. I tell people this a lot. You can't be scared of what the future holds if you're a part of a good team. You have to trust the people that are around you. You have to trust your own intelligence, your own skill set. You have to go, hey, we're going to get this done because we got smart people here. We're going to meet challenges that we've never had before, but because of these smart people and because of the foundation, and this is part of the foundation right here, whether you're going to go out and be the next broadcast newscaster, the next head of PR, you got to know that this is the foundation that's going to make you successful.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a little preachy there. I apologize.
No, you're preaching to your younger self.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what, I guess these were more, this is what I recommend that you do. What about one or two things that you really regret while you were at Grady? I shouldn't have done this. I would advise you that you don't do this because it's a waste of your time, or there are better things to do with your life. I have lots of questions. Yeah.
That's a wide open question. That's very wide open.
All right, so give you some time to think. Let's circle back. Ashley, you want to kick it off?
I don't have a lot of regrets. I feel like there were really wonderful experiences here. I do wish maybe I'd had the opportunity to travel abroad. I had that opportunity in my career, but I was here when 9/11 happened, and that created some concerns for my parents, and so that wasn't a path that I took. So that is probably one thing I would have really enjoyed. I think if I looked back at my senior year, I would just say, like, really spend time and enjoy the people. I think at that point I was so focused on wanting a job and doing the newscast, and we still had a great time. I mean, but this is the closest you will be, proximity-wise, to your really close friends, and you make great friends throughout your career and throughout your life, but having them half a mile down the road and being able to come in and meet with them, I would just say enjoy the journey, because it is, that sounds incredibly cliche, but I feel like I did a lot here professionally. I think if I could go back in that moment and have all those people together again in one room or in downtown somewhere, it would be very special.
Yeah, because I was just reading an article that said your 20s is as close as you're going to be to your friends, which is sad. After you get into your 30s, physical distance, you start traveling, and work separates you, and once you meet as colleagues, evidently the friendship just can't, it's very difficult to have as deep a relationship with your friends as you do in your 20s, and then you have marriage, kids, life gets in the way, and then it goes kind of downhill.
Well, I feel
From
better.
there.
How about you guys? All right.
Looking up.
40, I think we're still going up.
Brooke, do you want to?
Yes, I agree. I don't really think about a lot of things in terms of regret, because when I'm looking back and if I label it as a regret, it's harder to learn from it or decide that it was worth it for a reason, because you could just kind of put it into this regret bucket and you just don't want to think about it. And one of the things that I've learned over the past couple years, life's hard. You go through some really, really hard things, and it is okay to be uncomfortable. I think that we try to avoid discomfort as much as possible. So if something gets hard or uncomfortable, then we just, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to go to the next thing and see if that'll make me happy, see if that'll make me comfortable. But I think that there's so much beauty and growth in just living in the discomfort for a minute, letting it hit you, letting it just take over. I mean, you don't have to live in it forever. It should never define you, but being okay to take a lot of lessons from that discomfort. And I think that towards the end of my senior year, I had one foot out the door. I was ready to go. I wanted to make a dent in the world, kind of like Robbie. I was ready to prove things to people. I would love to have seen my younger self have better and deeper relationships with some of my professors and some other people, and actually just be present. I think being present is one of the other big takeaways that I've learned over the past couple of years of you have no idea what life is going to do, and you have no idea who you're sitting next to. Everyone should be treated equally in that sense of no one is under you. I always laugh, I'm the chief janitor in the office as well as the CEO. No job is below me, and no person is either. And so when you're sitting and talking, whether it's with a client or a team member, and you're able to listen and be present and actually make eye contact and focus, people won't always remember what you said. It's unlikely that you guys are gonna walk away from here and just be able to repeat every single line that we said. But you will remember how people made you feel. And if you can leave an impression on someone and let them walk away feeling good about themselves and who they are and the direction they have, then you have influence. And influence is so much bigger than just the label of success, because influence is typically done at a one-to-one level. It's sometimes slower, but it's way more meaningful and it has a much bigger ripple effect.
I'll probably piggyback on that message and say, one thing you mentioned about, 20s and, this time you get to be with your friends, studies have shown like 7 years is a very magical number. Things happen in sevens. It's very strange how the universe works, but you got 7 years to be with the people that you're with now. You got about 7 years to work with them, to socialize with them. These are your relationships, these are your work relationships. And then in 7 years, you'll see about all those people will go on to other things. You got a new 7 years, so you got to be really ready to adapt every 7 years. They say that there's a Harvard business study about bars and restaurants that you have to show your patrons every 7 years that you're putting money back in, that you care about the menu, that you want to make it better. Or you'll just be like, well, it's the same old place. So that's one thing to address that. So be ready to adapt. But talking about, we want control over our lives. And I know my wife, who's sitting there in that lovely red dress, is, she's tired of me telling the story, but I saw this on the Steve Harvey show recently, and the Reverend T.D. Jakes was on it. I don't like to get religious. I'm not super religious. I just think I do believe in God, but there's a message T.D. Jakes said that, we like to be in control of our lives. And with smartphones and Facebook and Twitter, we know what's going on in the world. We can go see any topic we want. We can bring it up, get the answer. How many times you sit here and say, who won the Super Bowl and when did the Falcons lose? Oh, I'll just look it up. I got the answer, right? I know all the answers at my fingertips. So we want control of our lives, but what T.D. Jakes said, which I thought was a brilliant message, and I've shared it all this year, is that you want control, but you got to build your faith muscle. There's a faith muscle inside of you, and we don't like to exercise it because it's weak. It's a weak thing. It's like if you go to and the story he tells, I'm going to steal it for now, is that when you go to a personal trainer and you've never been in a gym before, they put you on a weight machine, right? They got to show you how to do the motions. They got to show you how to build that muscle group. And then eventually, you'll be underneath the bench with free weights. You know what happens? Right here. You're uneven. You're unsteady. You don't like it until you get good at it. So you got to be willing to build your faith muscle in yourself. But hard work and luck meet at opportunity. That's what I'll tell you. And if you keep working hard, and it's so much about destiny, it's so much like I could tell you a million things in my life that I thought I was going to do, and they turned the tables on me. So as long as you're working hard and you're being good to the people around you, there is somebody in that work group, there's somebody in that, whether you move to Charlotte or whether you move to Dallas or San Francisco, wherever you go, you're going to know who the good people are. You're going to know who the people who are working as a team, and they're going to say to you, well, yeah, I need an editor for this. There's a million editors do a million things, but they're going to say, I really like this person, and I can get along with them, and they work hard, and they can meet deadlines. That's where all that socializing, that 7 years we talk about working, you go out with people for a beer and to blow off some steam and to talk about that boss who's making all the wrong moves. Guess what? Those bosses are everywhere. And you're going to learn more from people who make mistakes than you're ever going to learn from people who have successes. You're going to find out what goes wrong. And so I worked under a lot of people who were just bad at it. And you figure out, well, probably shouldn't do that. Yeah, I would say there are no regrets going back to this. There's different journeys, and the only message I would tell you is to take your time here. I was in such a hurry, and I wish I'd had a little more time. I wish I'd been a little more involved. That's what I could tell you.
Yeah, I guess across the board, there's a common denominator in the messages that you're giving to the students about resilience, about working hard, about being present. And these are great, but it sounds a little abstract to me. What can the students do that's a bit more concrete right now? What should they be doing right now? What are some of the action plans that you might want to leave them as take-home messages?
Say, we've talked about relationships, friendships-wise, but, and to your point, being kind to everyone, the opportunities I've had in my career are from relationships that I have made and networking, and I don't think I understood the value of that at the time that I was a student. So just the fact that you're here today and looking to hear from people that are in different industries, because like I said, when I decided to get out of news, my relationship back from News Source 15 was why that happened. And my father was a Delta pilot, which was a career that involved no networking. And if you got to go to the chief pilot's office, it was not a good thing. And so I didn't really understand that. I didn't come from a family of corporate or any of those things. And I was fortunate in that our professors brought them in and made it very easy to facilitate those relationships. And I anticipate that's the same now, but reach out, get to know people, because I find that it's the relationships that are going to provide the career opportunities. And you can be very intentional about that.
And to go off of that too, relationship without agenda. So often I see people who only reach out when they need something. So building that relationship first, so then when you are in a place where you need help or you're looking for the next career jump, you have a really strong network of people that you've given back to as well. So if it's not reciprocal, it feels like there is an agenda or almost manipulative. And it's easy to pick up on because people are going to help those who help them back too. And we want to know, hey, there's something that you're interested in. You've put time to get to know me. You've been intentional. This is bigger than just you need this, whether it's a job or advice or whatever it might be. It is actually because we have a relationship. And relationships are built over time. So always also remember, I try to make a point to a couple times a year reach out to people who have meant a lot to me. Remember to say thank you as much as you possibly can. So often I've given referrals or recs or introductions, and very few people remember to come back and thank me. And the ones who do, oh my gosh, it just means the world. Yep. Because it was my time and I put myself out there for them. And for them to say, hey, I appreciate that. That meant a lot to me. I remember those people. So putting yourself in a position of gratitude in those scenarios, but then also reaching out without the agenda first to just say, hey, you seem amazing. I would love to get to know you, take you to coffee, hear your story. All of those things will go a really, really long way. And then the other concrete thing is just keep educating yourself. Your education does not end when you walk out those doors. It truly does not. And if it does, your career starts to tank. So do as much as you can to continue educating yourself, especially in communications and marketing. It grows and changes so unbelievably fast. It's unreal. It's exciting. It's one of the best career choices I could have ever imagined, to mix marketing and communications and PR with entrepreneurship. It's fun, but if you're not on top of just what the world is talking about and the latest trends and changes even to Google algorithms that could dramatically impact your company, you're going to start falling behind. So do the best you can to continue reading. I'm a voracious reader. I read constantly all the time, and I've learned so much from some of the greatest minds on the planet after I graduated college. So build those relationships, keep educating yourself, and remember to say thank you, because it really does go a long way.
Yeah, because I was reading a book written by a professor of business, and he categorizes people into givers and takers. And of all the famous leaders in the world, you would think that they're takers, but it turns out that givers are the people who actually attract more people towards them and then are able to manage a organization very well. So that kind of goes along with your idea of try to give more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would just say take risk. You have to take a risk to be successful, to be really successful. We all want to be like uberly successful. We want people to realize, to give us accolades for what we've done. So if you're sitting here in classes and you're like, man, I look at this, they could have done this newscast differently. They could have done this PR campaign differently. Write it out, because I've had more people that I worked with this guy who was a writer who wrote a fake episode of Seinfeld. He loved Seinfeld, and he just was like, he learned how to write a screenplay. He wrote it out, he edited it, he wrote it again, he edited it. He submitted it, he got a writing job on Rescue Me. Because he worked hard enough. If you think you can do it, you have all the knowledge base here and on the internet. Those two things together, if you want it bad enough, just take the risk, write this out, send it to somebody. If you send it enough times, it's kind of like Shawshank Redemption when he wants to build the library. Just keep sending letters. Somebody's going to read that letter. Somebody's going to say, you know what, this is pretty good. Let's bring this person in. So I would say take risk. And there's an old saying in business, when you go into a community like, I'm just going to say New York because I live there, there's a lot of money in New York. There's a lot of rich people who don't know what to do with their money. And you know what they need? They need people with talent and people with drive for them to give their money to. And so there's an old saying, if you want advice, ask for money, and if you want money, ask for advice. Because you're going to go into a meeting somewhere with some great idea to start your own business. You're going to work for somebody for, say, 5 to 10 years and be like, I think I can do this on my own, but I need some money. So you're going to find somebody who says, I know this person, they're really smart. I'm going to hook you up with this person who's got this money, and you're going to have this meeting. And if you go and say, I need $1 million to start this business, you're never going to get any money. But if you say, I got this great idea, I need your advice. You're in this industry, you've got your hands in it, you're smarter than me, tell me how I can do this. And if you really have something, if you have a spark, they'll be like, let's have another meeting. Draw this out for me, how it works as a business. Because I want to know how to make money, and I want to do it creatively. And I'm too rich to be creative. There's not a lot of creative rich people. There are, but most of them are kind of like, well, how can I figure out how to make this percentage on my money every day? But if you have smart people who have good ideas and you take that risk and you build that business model and you present it to them, they just might give you that money and give you your start. So take that risk.
So it might have been quite a while, but do you remember your very first job, whatever it was, the very first thing that got you out of college and making any sort of money?
Oh,
even before. Okay.
I sold Segways.
Oh, really?
Segways. Those incredible things that you see in tourists, and you gyroscopes and you move forward. It was incredible. I was 15 years old and I worked at a dealership and sold Segways. And I always worked. I loved working. I thought it was a blast getting to work with people and figure out how to sell and putting myself out there. So sold Segways, went to college, worked with the Ryan Seacrest Foundation, sold wedding dresses at David's Bridal for a long time. Incredible commissions. Incredible commissions. You should all go apply. Funded college. Worked at David's Bridal, worked at Kathy Jean Shoes. I actually, I hurt my foot and glass fell through it. And they said, you'll never run or wear high heels again. I said, okay, cool. I got a job where I was forced to wear high heels at Kathy Jean Shoes within 5 months. After physical therapy for a little bit, because I was like, don't tell me that. I'm going to figure it out, and it's going to hurt a little bit, but I've got to get back in my high heels. And then right after that, I was so nervous, and I kind of alluded to this when my last answer. I was so ready to get out the door and prove myself that I turned down a lot of great job opportunities at first, thinking, oh, the perfect one is going to come along. You guys are young. You got to pay your dues a little bit. And that perfect job is probably not going to be the one that you get right out of college. So I learned that the hard way, worked at some difficult jobs for a while, made zero money. I made more working at David's Bridal and Kathy Jean Shoes than I did when I graduated college. And that was a rude awakening because I thought, oh, I'm going to get out. I've got this great education. I've had incredible internships. I worked. Everyone's going to want me. No, you're very replaceable. And so I had to realize that, but it was an incredible lesson to learn because I realized I had to show my value. I had to put in the work. You are every single person here is valuable and worthy and amazing, but when it comes to business, you do have to go extra and prove your worth and prove your value and work hard and say, hey, I am in it for you all. So then I got the opportunity to move to San Francisco. And so I was really excited. I was going to lead nationwide PR campaigns for Fortune 500 companies. So think about it, 22, 23 years old. I was going to be in front of cameras, traveling the nation for this massive, massive company. Honestly, looking back, I can't believe they put someone like me in charge of it. But I traveled about 32 weeks a year, and it was really lonely, to be honest. It was a blast. I mean, I got to see the world. I got to see every single state in the entire US. And after night after night after night of being in a hotel alone, I'd wake up and I would get to be on the media and do press, and it looked like this amazing, glamorous, really cool thing, and all my friends were just falling all over themselves. I can't believe you have this opportunity. You're out in San Francisco. You're traveling all the time. And I realized it was lonely, and so I had to make a decision there too of, hey, do I want the status and the illusion of success when I am actually not okay with who I am? I'm not okay with where I'm at. I'm not okay with this job that I've selected because I thought it looked cool. And I made the decision to actually move back to Atlanta. And I am so glad that I did. I had other tours lined up that I could have been a part of. And I was uncomfortable for a long time, and I learned a lot, and I would definitely do it again. It's not one of those things where I would cross out, just because it was amazing to be alone with myself for a little bit, to have the confidence where I didn't have to surround myself with people to understand what I was worth. I had to read a lot. I had to be comfortable eating at restaurants alone because I was traveling. So I had to grow a lot of confidence. I had to speak on behalf of very, very large companies and make sure that I was getting their voice right and not saying things that were wrong or inappropriate for what they wanted me to say. So there was a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. And when I came back, I was able to take all of those lessons and feel so much more centered and confident in my new role. And I think that that is what ushered me into more of a leadership position, because in a leadership role, people are telling you what to do all the time. You need to do this. Everyone has advice. You need to take money. You don't need to take money. You need to get investor debt. You need to get regular investment. And unless you're very centered, you are just going to chase every shiny object. And you don't know also how to connect with people who are also on their own journey. And a lot of leadership is meeting people where they're at and not just assuming everyone is on the same train as you. You've got to get them on board. And sometimes that means taking a step back, remembering how hard life was at a certain point and saying, hey, I get it, I've been there, and we're going to keep going, but I hear you. And so I loved that time. It was very difficult, but amazing.
Cool. Any very first jobs that you want to share?
Job for me was, again, I was driven to come to New York, so I took a job with I had a special certification to teach English, regular level, and special ed English in my hometown. And this is one of those things where the local paper comes and does a story on you as the youngest teacher in the system, and I never taught a class. I mean, we'd all been at the receiving end of very, very good teachers, and I taught 4 regular level English classes, and I taught 1 special ed class, and I had kids with rap sheets so long. They all had behavior problems. You know, they had them on paper. They weren't really behavior problems. And I just remember one of the lessons from that was I had known the principal. He was my vice principal when I went there 4 years earlier. So I was, 22, figuring it out, very frustrated, figuring out how to teach these kids who had not been taught really. They had kind of been thrown into the system. And so I was like, how do I get to these kids? And, I remember being frustrated after class one day, and the principal came over to me, and he goes, I want you to remember something. You don't know what these kids go home to. I thought it was a great, great moment. And I had grown up, and I'll tell you another thing. I made $17,000 after taxes my first year out of school. Yeah. You know what you can do with $17,000? Live at home. That's what you can do. So that's what I did. And it's not glamorous living at home, that's for sure. My parents would have told you that. So I think it's, and I'd grown up in a blue-collar family. My dad was a maintenance man. My mother was secretary for 40-some-odd years for the same insurance guy out of Griffin, Georgia. Hardworking people. So I had grown up, I spent 4 years as a dishwasher growing up, and I'd never abandoned the restaurant business. It always treated me well. And you got to remember, the people that work in a restaurant are not your top of your class students, right? But they're hardworking folks, and they deserve a fighting chance at everything they can get. And maybe they've had economic disadvantages or geographical disadvantages, or parents who couldn't show them this is the way you get out of this. And so that between. And of course, I went back to New York. I went to New York, and I got a job at this bar and restaurant called Village Poorhouse, 11th Street and 3rd Avenue, and I was their first employee. And they hired me as the world's largest barback. Usually, barbacks are little short guys that can get under the bar, and then there's me, at plus 50 pounds. And so, after 3 weeks of just working every day I could work, I helped set up that bar. I must have washed those glasses 8 times before we opened, because they're just dust from construction. You're always on a hustle and a deadline. And then after 3 weeks, they're like, hey, you want to be manager? And we'll give you a bartending shift. And then from there, here it was like 6 years later, made friends with people who were a couple very famous people who used to come in and say hello, and they gave us a $300,000 angel investment. Now, I'll tell you, it doesn't work that way for everybody, but I always treated all the people, those kids, and I'm Facebook friends with some of my students. I'm sure some of you professors are too. But it was just so interesting to see the journey of those kids, and I got them as high as I think they got 60% pass level, which the previous year was like 48%. I mean, just hustling as much as I could, but it kept me grounded. And going back to also piggybacking what you said, like when you talked about working alone and you felt alone and it was very tough, you have to know who you are. Mm-hmm. You can't go be anybody else. Mm-hmm. And that's what I remember, like my voice coach, whose name was Jack Lee, and then another gentleman by the name of Dan Strickland, who was from Griffin, which is another way I got to New York. Guy who retired was from Griffin, sent me to New York and gave me a business card and said, you call this guy. But Jack taught me how to be myself. That's what you have to do. It gets to me a little bit because it means so much. Go be yourself. Because when you go to an audition with me, or you go to audition as a job interview, they want you. All you have to sell is you and how good you are and how hard you'll work for that organization. That's the most important part. Don't try to, even if you don't know how to do a skill, you're like, hey, listen, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to work as hard as I can to figure it out. But go figure out who you are. That's gonna project you with the hard work and the luck, and it's gonna find you. I promise you.
Thank you. So I'm gonna be mindful of time. Are we able to take some questions from the audience? Yeah. Yeah, all right. Yeah. Anyone with questions for these? Yes. Hello. Yeah.
What's your name?
My name is Ola.
Yeah, can you speak up for the rest of the
My name
audience?
is Ola Obajani.
Hi.
You just spoke about knowing who you are. That's such an abstract idea. What is some concrete
Well,
ways
you
figure that out?
Thank you.
So she was asking about how do we know. Sorry, go ahead, Ola. You can ask your question.
Sorry, I was just wondering what are some concrete ways that you can figure out who you are?
Well, I think that's a very hard question to answer. Yeah. I think for me, it was finding a mentor who could understand me. Mentors are so important. And here you'll find some, and then in your professional life you'll find some, and you have to keep your ears open. Your instinct will take you so far. Your instinct is good. And I used to hear this from acting coaches a lot. This is going back to my acting days, and I was somewhat successful at that, relatively. But he would say, you go to a scene class and you read through this script, and he go, you say after you run the scene once and it's not very good the first time you do, and he go, what does the character want? And you know what the character wants. Character wants to leave with this other character outside of the scene, right? Well, then go get what they want. You have the right instinct. Go do it. Stop thinking about the script. You have the instinct. Listen to the people who you respect, who show you they have integrity every day. That's more important than anything. There are more people that do business with me and my group because we have integrity and we're not going to cheat them. And that's the craziest, most simple idea. There are more people out there in my business who will cheat you. They'll cheat their employees. They'll cheat the system. They'll cheat insurance. They'll cheat anything they can cheat to make $1. Have integrity. You're not going to make all the money. Probably not going to be Bill Gates at the end of this, right? You have to have integrity, because if you have integrity in what you do, people will always come back to you. Mm-hmm. They will always come back to you for your work. They always know that you will hire the right people to get that job done, and you will be available on the weekends, and you will be available at night in those formidable years when you have to be like, hey, I'm there, I'm dependable. I want you to know I was in, and this is a time I get to spend with my family. My mom and brother live 30 minutes from here. My brother has a couple kids, and so it's a real personal time for me. I love this, but I really love seeing my family. And I took a call from a client. Took a call picking out a bottle of wine in a wine store for dinner tonight. And I said, he goes, I know you're with your family, and I hate to buy. I said, let me tell you, I always got time for you. What's going on? I got 5 minutes. Let's talk. And we were able to say, all right, let's jump on a call tomorrow. Let me architect this for you, how to get this problem solved. So you just got to be dependable. But that takes integrity, listening to your mentors, and that will help you decide who you are. I can't tell you. Nobody here can tell you who you are. That's the other part. You want me to get more abstract? We're a planet on a petal of a flower in the universe. No. Listen. Just listen to yourself. Listen to the people around you, and you will find out who you are. But don't go into it saying, I'm going to break this mold, because you'll probably be unsuccessful.
I would say, I feel like personally, I have learned the most about myself in the wait. So the moments where things went really well, and I had the reporting career, and I got the promotion, and those things didn't come easily. So when you were speaking about traveling around the country, at one point I was a reporter and anchor in Salt Lake City. And my sister was there, which was wonderful, but I was going to work at 3:30 in the morning. I was 25 years old. I had recently parted ways with my college boyfriend. I was an outsider of the culture there. I was not LDS. And it was lonely. It was a beautiful place. And I knew that I missed the Southeast, and I wanted to come home. And I had to wait. I had to figure out, was I going to stay in news? Was I going to look for another opportunity? And eventually that opportunity came, and I was really delighted that it came in the form of WSB TV in Atlanta. It was my hometown station. But I had to wait, and I had to think about it. And that continued even on into my career. When I wanted to leave WSB, I knew for a year I wanted to leave. I was getting to the point where I thought, I'll be a barista at Starbucks. You know, like they have good benefits. This isn't what I want to do anymore. And it took a while to get there. And even on a personal level, I have 2 children I adore. It took me 4.5 years to be able to have my son. And my family is amazing, but I can appreciate the moments that have been good because I learned who I was in the moments that were not good. And you'll learn that about yourself, and you'll learn that about others. They really show you who they are when things are hard.
Wonderful. Yes.
Hi. Thank you. Good morning. Oh God, that's loud. Okay. I'm Ashley Soriano. I graduate in December with a journalism degree, and I'm at a point in my life where I don't know anything in terms of where am I going to live? Am I going to get a full-time job immediately? Am I going to go straight into law school in the fall? Everything's just so unknown. So can you talk about your experience leading up to graduation and immediately after?
Yes. It is unknown. And honestly, a lot of life is unknown. It is a lot of, I could do this, I could go a totally different direction. Yes. I continue to make as many relationships as you can. Apply everywhere. And honestly, even in the application process or the interview process, I learned a ton about the types of jobs that I wanted and who I wanted to work for. Because interviews are two-way. They're interviewing you and you're interviewing them. It's not always a good fit, and it is okay to say, it is not actually a good fit for me. You don't have to jump at every single job just because they want you. It has to fit you as well, because long term, it's not gonna work. So even just putting yourself out there and going through the interview process, whether you want the job or not, helps you, one, learn more about you, because you get asked some weird questions in interviews. I cannot even begin to tell you. But having to sit there in the moment and think about answering them, you go, oh wow, I don't like that actually, or I am actually really good at this. So, yes. But being okay with those that interview process, and you meet a lot of people, and then also remembering to follow up. So there are a couple things that I did. I interviewed at a lot of different places, and then I always followed up. Sometimes it wasn't a good fit for me, and I would tell them. Some of it was, honestly, I was like, oh, I'm holding out for the better job. But it was actually an incredible experience, and I would email them after, and I made relationships that have actually impacted my job, my career now, for jobs that I did not take. So I learned a lot that way, and I think that you can too. It helps you start to clarify and categorize what you're interested in.
I'd say try things, because you are at a place where you can try something for a year, you know, and if it doesn't work, you can do something else. You're going to grow a lot, professor told me, professionally and personally, if you move. I don't think there's a better time to move to another part of the country than your early 20s. And so if you have that opportunity, I would take it and experience different cultures and places.
Mm-hmm. Especially in communications.
All right, I think we have time for one more.
Uh-oh, sorry, did I take it from you? Okay, hi, my name is Ashley. We have Ashley, and Ashley.
I'm glad to see it's still a happening
Yes.
name.
So I know we have a business owner and also a CEO up here, and so I wanted to know your process in saying, I know you talked about you knew when it was time for you to start your own thing. What was the journey like for you getting your idea together, meeting those people? Did you work while you were starting up your company? What was that process like?
Yes, lots of hustle, yes to it all. I did work, so I continued working for a while. So I worked, I knew that I wanted to do something. I was a technician, I was really good at marketing, and so a lot of times people say, oh, if I'm really good at this skill, I'm totally gonna be able to run my own business. And not always, because honestly, I don't do marketing anymore. I don't do communications as much as I used to. I'm a business owner, and so I deal with people and teams and growth and revenue. But when I knew that I wanted to make that leap, I felt this discontent with where I was at, so I knew that I wanted to do something. I was sitting at a lake, and it's actually the story of the name Marketwake. I was sitting at this lake, and it was early in the morning, it was like 6:30. I was reflecting, trying to figure out what in the world I was gonna do. I had a full-time job. and I was watching as these beautiful boats went by. It was Lake Burton. Beautiful boats, nice, big, rich boats. And it was in no wake zone, so they weren't really leaving a wake, but they're all going fishing. And then after about 45 minutes of sitting there, there's still fog coming off of the lake, and it was just so still and beautiful. This little tiny bass boat comes by, and same speed, it wasn't going too fast, but it left a wake so large, it shook the dock. And I said, that's what I want to do. I want to help people and small businesses leave a wake so big, it leaves an impact in the world around them. And it was that moment of clarity to say, it doesn't have to be the biggest, nicest, most successful looking thing out there. I can start small. So I did. I started small. And actually I started Marketwake and then was asked back to be the CEO of Covey while I was going through a pivot. So I was doing both, and it was very hard. I wouldn't do it again, but I'm really glad I did. And it was incredible. So just be willing to put in some late hours, but when you get that calling, you have to honor it.
And the way we got started, I would say, is we had all, and I have 3 business partners, and all of them one guy was an actor like me and worked in bars, and you create a following of people, again, creating relationships, and this was in a, employee to customer relationship. And then when we decided that we were tired of working for people, and we wanted to, we had built a team of folks. We had built a team of folks who wanted to work for us, who wanted to work with us. And so we built a business plan, and at that time, and it's a longer story than we have time for, so I'll keep it short, but we had been doing the University of Georgia parties for, at that time, probably about total between my partners and me, about 10 years, 8 years, something like that. And so, it worked out for me because I get to watch the games every week, and now I don't really get to watch the games as much because I'm visiting with people, but we had gone to the University of Georgia group, the NYC Dogs, who also, in no small part, helped us build this. Like, they helped us build, don't ever forget the people who put you there and help you spread the good word. And again, they really like you, and they're going to tell 30 of their friends. Those are your best offense, your biggest fans, right? So we had gone to them, and we had purchased, and again, we had looked for 2.5 years for a space. In New York, commercial rents are through the roof. At that time, they were through the roof. This was 9 years ago. 2.5 years we look. I looked at boutique hotels with restaurant spaces and rooftops. I've been in the basement of more buildings in New York City than you ever want to see. And so we had looked and looked and looked and looked, and then one day we got a call from a landlord. That's like getting a call from a casting agent. You want that call. And they go, hey, we hear you guys are looking and you're good operators. Why don't we have a meeting? And you know what a landlord wants? Not to miss a month's rent. All right, that's the most important thing. Money's the answer, what's the question, right? So we had gone through and met this landlord, and they were like, these guys in our space are gonna fail. They are losing probably about $25,000 to $35,000 per month between paying the staff, buying the booze, buying the food, you name it, right? So you have this opportunity. But we signed an agreement. We had to put in X amount in the business and turn it around. So we got this really awesome deal found us. But we had looked for 2.5 years trying to force the issue, trying to say, well, you know what? No, we could make this space work. We could do this. It's not the greatest neighborhood, and this place used to be here before, but we can figure it out. Wasn't the right fit. So we got to listen. Talking about knowing yourself, listening. Listen to the environment around you. And then literally, we get a call. And we knew a guy who would vouch for us, guarantor the lease, and it all worked out. And here we are. This is our 7th year of being open. 90% of small businesses fail in their first year. And if you make it through year 2, half of that fail. We're in year 7 in New York City because we're listening. But we had to figure out how that was going to work. So we went to UGA group, keep it short, sorry, I know, we're on time. I feel like I'm giving an Oscar speech and the band's playing. And went to NYC Dogs, yeah, right? Dean, are you directing back there? So we had gone into NYC Dogs and we said, hey guys, you're splitting this bar with another group. At that time it was a New York alumni of Virginia Tech. You need your own home. And I said, I'm your guy. I love it. I live it. I eat it. I sleep it. I breathe it. And we built this really great, we did this like mock-up with a graphic artist that we had in New York. And after we got done with the meeting, they said it was kind of like a big breath of fresh air. They were like, we were going to go with you guys the whole time. We just wanted our own bar, and we had a good relationship. But we had built all this presentation knowing that we could give them everything. And that's our only club that we do. And the space is open to folks year round from Grady and from other, like Terry College comes and the Education College comes and Franklin. They all have events with us because they know we got you. So that's kind of how we started.
All right, I think we're out of time, right? But
we can hang out and talk
oh, super.
afterwards.
Yeah, okay, great. So thank you to all of you. Thank you for being here. And I think you should take all of these recommendations to heart and build a lot of relationships while they're there. Thank you for being here.